Father Troy, let me ask you about this. The Pope has made this front and center really since he became Pope. It's an issue that's central to him. What's your reaction, first of all, when you hear Myron Ebbles say that the Vatican's been ill-advised?
I would have many difficulties with the Vatican in some areas. One thing I would not have is that it's ill-advised, for this simple reason, that it is a listening post for every country on earth. And with all due respect to the United States, to Great Britain, to anywhere, every night, every nuncio is collecting information and transmitting it. They also have access, and I've been reading some of the people who have been advising them, to top-class people. Now, of course, the Pope set out to get to a particular conclusion. I mean, I don't think we should let on that he sat down with a tabula rasa and said, will I or won't I? He knew, as a South American, after living there all his life in Argentina, looking at Brazil, looking at what was happening, listening to the 1998 letter of the Philippine bishops where half the parishes of Manila are under sea level and they're just getting washed away, washed away. Now, was he going to come to Rome, take the name Francis and suddenly say, well, I think I'll talk about devotion and prayer, which he does a lot. He said, no. I'm going to address the most fundamental issue. I also think...
So he takes... Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
He takes the name Francis of Assisi.
Of Assisi.
Who I guess has been often called the patron saint of environmentalists.
Yeah, he lived in the 13th century. He was the great one for the canticle of the sun and the moon. Whenever he saw nature, and I don't mean this cynically, he just burst into song. And this title of this encyclical is taken from his Canticle of Creatures. He chose the words laudate si, praise, give praise, whatever translation we want to make, from a 13th century. He took that name, I believe, because he wanted to do two things. He wanted to uplift the poor, which Francis did, and he also wanted to address creation, because the Canticle of Creation was the great contribution of this 13th century saint.
All right, some saying, though, the Pope is not going far enough. In the leaked version, at least, in that encyclical, it says population control is not a solution to the world's environmental problems. Your reaction to people who are criticizing the Pope for not saying that, well, part of the problem is there's too many human beings now on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, you can see what lies behind that, because immediately if he was to come out and say that we could cut back the population, which I think everybody would agree would probably be a good thing, it's how you do that morally from the principles from which you start. I wouldn't fault him totally on that, but I think he should be taken on that one, and I think he's quite capable of facing it. There's just one thing I would like to add. I saw a quote the other day, which I think is so right. It said, some people say that the Pope should stick to caring for souls and let the seals die. I don't think seals are any less important to Pope Francis. He also saves souls. But to say that he, like, it's often said to me, after my last time with you here on the Irish referendum on gay marriage, I got such a telling off for even coming on the programme. You should stay in the sacristy and say your prayers. The same thing has been said to the Pope. Stick to your devotions and leave us, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in the big conference in France, to do our business. You've no place here. Well, by God, I'm going to say he does. He's every right to be at the table, and I'm so proud of him that he is at the table.